If you're a company, like if you're a company, right, and you're assessing just buying a piece of software, like an enterprise software, right? I mean, these enterprise software companies just got away with obscene amounts of like costs, like and stuff, right? I mean, just there is one huge example of where you can get away with you can just deep research and figure out like how could you actually build this? Like where are the costs in this? Like you could break down every little thing of like where all the costs are. A lot of the cost for enterprise like enterprise type software or enterprise sale like was in the sales team and in the huge offices that they had and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's another. I revert back, like it's another reason why vibe coding is going to go to the moon because of exactly that, like transparency. People are going to realize, wow, okay, I could probably do this myself, and I'll probably do it for 5 times less than what it will cost for you to sell it to me, for the cost of your relationship manager, and like all these additional costs that you have as a business. So it's certainly very, very, very disruptive there.
It's just it's kind of amazing. Like, I was thinking like what's the effect on advertising? In the sense that, advertising in some ways was kind of a shortcut, to doing a lot of research, and
Yeah.
it wasn't always an effective one, but or at least from the consumer standpoint. But now it's like I don't pay any attention to advertising because I'm gonna go basically ask AI to do the comparison for me. And
Mm.
even mundane things like, one of the things I hate is like when you sit down on like a Friday to watch a movie and you spend 20 minutes, flipping through trying to figure out what to watch, and now what I do, if I know we're going to be, staying in on a Friday and watching a movie, I just AI knows in my preferences what channels what streaming services I have, and I'd say
Mm.
of the streaming services I subscribe to, give me the five best movies that are out this week, and
Yeah.
and then based on my preferences, based on my past preference, tell me which one you think I'll like, and
Yeah.
it does a way better job picking than I would.
Yeah. No, I will say also, Ashley and I have watched probably two series because of AI recommendations in the last like 3 to 4 months. We liked one show. We're like, oh, can you just give us an idea? Because I mean, I honestly like when I'm tired and I don't can't make a decision, I'll flick through for like
Right.
half an hour just like trying to find something. Um,
And then by
so
that time, you don't want to watch anything.
oh, honestly, like I'll sit on YouTube and I'll just like flick around for easily 15 minutes so that I was realize where's the time gone. Um, But I'm the same. Like, I have been reflecting on this the last. I never see any ads. I never see any ads anywhere. I don't watch linear TV. I got rid of my what we call Sky here the other day because it was like I don't know, just was sick of paying for it. Like I think it was like 8 times more than Netflix or something like that.
Mm.
So if I want to watch like an All Blacks match, the rugby match, I'll like go to my parents' house or something, go to my dad's, go watch with my dad. Um, and then I have YouTube Premium. I have
Right.
Netflix and Disney Plus and all that. Like I pay for all the premium things on like if I go on social media, like I have the premium version of X, so I don't see any ads there. LinkedIn, I still see ads, but um, increasingly going less there. I literally see no ads. I actually,
Yeah.
the thought I had the other day is, I mean, actually, yeah, I get your point about ads, by the way. I do get your point, but it has been proven to be the easiest way for platforms to make money, if you think about it. So to say that it's going to go away, I just don't think so. I think it's just your personal experience because these guys have never made more money from ads than they have
That's interesting.
like right now, right? It's just your personal experience. Like Google's never made more money than ads. Amazon makes I don't know, $60 billion profit a year from ads. Like the ads aren't going to go away because they just make so much money. They make so much money. It's the easiest way, if you think about it, it's the easiest way to monetize a platform. Well, I mean, Facebook, even Facebook, Meta, sorry. I mean, they're the kings. They're the kings of this. I mean, they've never made more profit in their history than they have made in the last 12 months. So
Yeah, I've never had an account there, so
yeah, I mean, so people are still paying. People are still paying for to the advertisers are still paying. It's I think it really is a personal thing. But I personally never see ads. Never.
yeah.
And also I was actually thinking it's actually to my detriment because I have a business that I should be advertising online and I just have no visibility of ads because I don't want to see any. I don't want to see any ads. So it's probably been to my detriment actually, but I just do not want to watch ads at all. Maybe the last like few years have proven that you can charge people who don't want to see ads. So there's probably
Right.
just going to be this like two-way marketplace going forward.
Well, now it's funny because even the things that I thought I was paying to not see ads, they've started bringing ads back into, like Amazon Prime. Now I was paying an
Yep.
Amazon Prime subscription, but now they show ads at the beginning, and now it just makes me
Yep.
mad. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, it's just so easy. It's so easy for them, right?
Yeah.
Like these guys, um, it's the enshittification, isn't it? Like,
Right.
this is what happens. I mean, if you don't have YouTube Premium, I mean,
Oh, it's unwatchable.
I
It's
would honestly
absolutely
feel it's
unwatchable.
unwatchable. I think I went in through one of my like my iPad. Maybe I clicked over to my iPad, and it took me to this like account that I don't have premium on, and I had to
Right.
watch something with ads. And honestly, I think I got four ads in like 12 minutes. I just couldn't
And
do it.
then
I
right in
just
the
couldn't
middle of
stand
the
it.
video, you'll get like
Yeah,
an ad break, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need that.
but I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd pay $20 any day of the week. I mean, that's just like that's less than what it cost me to go out with my two kids just for a coffee this morning.
Right.
So it's just
But speaking of kids, I saw a fascinating thing that ChatGPT traffic in like May or June like dropped precipitously. And what they said, it was school kids that when school lets out, the the traffic goes down dramatically. And
wow.
it made me think that we're kind of raising this whole generation that is so used to using this and is going to be so good with it by the time they're probably in high school.
Mm.
um you know I just wondered, kind of to what extent are your kids into it and using it? And
They're still a bit young, so I mean, they're only really using it when I'm using it with them.
mm,
We've been using it at bedtime, which I've said a couple of times. But I mean, they don't have their own devices and things like that, so they're not using it a huge amount. Um,
it's not you really showing up in schools yet for that.
no, 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 it hasn't. Um, I mean, it would be so hard to get it past like the school system here in New Zealand. It absolutely will. I reckon that like I mean I'm very pro AI. There's obviously like downsides and stuff, but a few downsides, but there's way more upsides. Like I reckon that the New Zealand government should buy everyone a ChatGPT or AI subscription. They should partner with these tech firms and buy absolutely everyone a $20 a month or get a very good deal for everyone to have a subscription. Because I just think it's a massive unlock. I think it's a massive unlock. Like, yes, some people believe that people are cheating and things like this, but I think you just like everything, like in business we're seeing now, is that you've got to wrap around this new technology. You've got to find a way to utilize this new technology. And yes, if you're going to try and teach the old way, like traditional way, then yes, you're going to get suboptimal results from AI. But what if your entire curriculum was based and supported and augmented with AI? Like, think about
Right.
how much further you could take people, how much further you could. I mean, I have never learned more in my life than this year. This year, I've learned so much. It's absolutely insane. Um, so it's a mindset thing, right? Like everyone's going to be so protective in these like educational systems, right? They're going to be so protective of teachers and things like this, but they need to be like rethink, And I know this will take way longer than it should. It absolutely will, but they need to rethink like how you augment learning around these AIs. You absolutely should. I mean, it's very similar to like when computers came in. Like I remember
Yeah,
when I was at school.
calculators.
Yeah, when I was at school was when sort of like laptops really became a thing. That you could, I think you bought a laptop for like 3 grand or something. You bought these like Apple laptops. Remember those colorful Apple ones?
Yeah.
That was when I was at school, and they became part of the way you like did homework and did work at school. So like it will be, it will happen. It will happen. It will happen way slower than what it should, but it certainly will happen.
Well, I mean, it was interesting because I remember it's a funny story, but back when calculators came out, and then TI had those programmable scientific calculators where you could program in the reverse Polish notation and you could kind of
Yep.
enter, like it was kind of like very simple parameterized code. But
Yep.
what I found was, I was going into math tests, and they said, okay, you can use a calculator, and I
Mm,
was finishing like hour tests in like 7 or 8 minutes, and they were like, "How are you doing that?" And I said, "You just have to program the formulas in beforehand." And yeah,
mm,
I remember one of my teachers saying, "Yeah, he's like, you probably learn more math learning how to program those formulas in." He's like, I'm not mad at that at all. He's like, if anybody wants to, kind of make the effort to learn to program their calculator, he's like, knock yourself out. And I thought that was a really forward look. I remember that, this day. I mean, it was in high school, decades ago. But yeah, that
mm.
always made an impression on me that he was really kind of forward thinking in terms of saying, hey, like my test wasn't intended, to be taken that way, but you probably learned more basically beating the test than you would have by taking the test.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's just inevitable. It was absolutely inevitable. I mean, it's just gonna, because of incentives and politics and all the usual stuff, there's just gonna be it's just gonna take time to filter through. But there'll be a time where, you know, it'll be I think a lot of parents will be like me eventually, and they'll be like, if you're not using AI in some capacity, you're holding them back. You're holding them back versus other people who are using AI at home to learn XYZ. Like, you know, um, so it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
well, I have to think also, like, what's the impact on like higher education? Because for you and me, it was like going to college, going to grad school was like it was a huge payoff. And
Yeah.
and now, I think with how much you can learn and how quickly you can learn, using AI and using, resources like Notebook LM and that learning mode that OpenAI built is
Yeah.
really nice. And yeah, I look at that and I think, I mean, there's certainly, social things and kind of maturity aspects of going away, but in
Mm.
some respects, it's like, how much is the traditional, college university education really benefiting relative to what you could learn, in a different way, at a
Well,
much, at a fraction the cost.
two key things here for me is that going to university and college is not all about the academics. For some people it is, but for the majority,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
about it's
totally
about the
agree.
experience, friendship, sport, um, just maturing, as you said. I mean, I think I got more immature at my university than mature. um, um, but I mean, when I went to uni, I mean, I learned basically nothing. I mean, I just went there to have a good time, honestly. I got a lot more serious about like learning after I finished university, honestly. Um, so, I don't think that will change. I do feel though that, and this has already been happening particularly in the US, because I think it's a bit more studied, but the lower end is getting crushed. Like they're getting absolutely crushed, right? There's,
Yeah.
um, you know, and there's also recognition. Like when I was living in the States, getting a degree from a top university was a rite of passage into corporate. into business. It
Yep.
was an absolute rite of passage. And I mean, it was more just about saying you had it than actually anything you learned at it. Like, I mean, my wife did an MBA there, so I saw it firsthand. I interacted with a lot of people from a few people from these top schools, all across the US. It was just a rite of passage to get into these like big firms and these top jobs. So I don't think that's going to change at all. I really don't. They might have a lot more competition though from smart people who just use AI all day, who can really prove, who will be able to prove that they're actually far smarter. Like the access to information is obviously like a lot easier now, like the access to intelligence and learning. Um, so yeah, those are my 2 points. Sorry, I rambled on a bit, but
No, I think you're right. You know, I think the kind of very top tier elite schools, it's almost like it's a professional certification, it's a credential more than it is necessarily a great education.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I think that is going to continue. And I mean, the interesting thing is, you know, in some cases, those schools have actually contracted. They take less, you know, less
mm,
students even than they used to.
yeah,
And so, you know, I think you're right. I think the mid tier and the lower tier, you know, I think that's where you're going to see, you know, drastic change.
yeah. I think like I would say like obviously my kids are young. Um, I already feel right now that if they didn't want to go to university, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. Um, I think that they probably should from like a social thing, but that could evolve over time. I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, like from an educational point of view, I do not feel that they will benefit much at all from going to the traditional uni like that I went to.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
I
I
agree.
learned basically nothing. I just survived.
Sounds like you had a good time though.
But I had an amazing time. I had the best time ever. I mean, I still think back to those days and think, man, that was the best time of my life. Um, but I went to university in Sydney though, so like Sydney's the most incredible city to like have a good time in. But yeah, look, honestly, I mean, I love entrepreneurship. I love like doing the stuff I do now. I mean, I feel like it's more challenging than it has been historically. But if my kids wanted to go off and do something a bit more entrepreneurial, or they wanted to do sports or something like that, I would encourage it. I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't mind about the university side of things because it's a big investment. It's a lot of good years. Um, if they're passionate about something else, if they're good at something else, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if they don't go to the university. I feel like when I was going through, and maybe historically, like there was kind of there's been this pressure, like you had to go to university. It was like this
Oh,
great
yeah.
thing, you know. And I don't know. I think that's going to wane a little bit. It still will be a thing, but it won't be as big a thing. Maybe going forward, it might sort of revert a little bit. But that's just a very personal view. I don't know if that's widely held or not.
I would suspect that it is because I mean I know growing up, you know, it was like there was just no question about, you know, going to
Mm,
college, and it was probably no question about going to graduate school. And
yeah.
um and now, you know, I think you're right. I think that is very much going to change because I think there are some very obvious paths to, you know, success that don't go through university at all anymore. Um
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could get a Harvard education from ChatGPT right now. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, you'd have to have like a little bit of intuition or a little bit of like perseverance, I guess. But, you know,
Discipline, definitely.
yeah, discipline. Sorry, discipline's a better term. Yeah. Um, but in terms of like intelligence, like to actually learn, I mean, you could easily get that from ChatGPT, which is insane. Insane. Like, never would have dreamed that that would be a thing, right? Um, so, I think it's like inevitable, honestly, like 200 grand worth of debt to go to Harvard versus being able to get to the same level educationally and um, capability just by using a $20 a month subscription. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of people like weighing that up in their minds, right? Like it's
Yeah.
and a lot of businesses are going to be like, hey, if this guy is as smart as you and he did it himself, I'm going to hire him.
Well, I think you're gonna see, even kids coming out of high school, with skills that we never even dreamed of.
Mm.
Because you were pretty much, you were kind of learning at the pace the school was teaching. And now I kind of feel like, you're a smart kid. It's like you can learn anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's also what I personally feel is like because in New Zealand, I have no doubt it's the same in the States, but I don't know enough about it. But there is a lot of kickback about AI. A lot, like you see it, you hear it anecdotally, and when I read the news headlines and stuff like that, everyone's just scared AI is going to take their job or something, which is just crazy. But I think it's the biggest unlock for education ever, ever. I mean, if you think about the last few years, the headlines have been teachers are stretched. Teachers can't keep up with everyone with special needs. Teachers, there isn't enough teachers. Like this is the sort of stuff that we have heard here. Don't know if it's the same in the States, but those are the headlines we've heard here. Just augment everything with AI and you solve all of those problems and you get better outcomes. Like um, I know it's not as easy as that, but that's how I think of it.
Well, the interesting thing, the definitely the AI firms are picking up on that because one of the things I noticed is like if you're a student, you can get like a Google Ultra subscription for like almost nothing.
Oh wow.
Um, and it's like I think they've all picked up this idea that if you kind of develop that loyalty and kind of lock people in when they're young, it's like they'll be customers for years. And
They're indoctrinating them. They're indoctrinating the young.
they are, but it's a pretty good lore. I mean, to
Yeah.
basically take this incredibly rich subscription and basically give it to a student for nothing. That's
Yeah.
incredible. The as you say with kind of the discipline industriousness, you can do anything with that.
I know. I know. It's all really interesting. It's all really exciting. But the one thing it's going to be better than it's going to be better than the social media generation for what that has grown up through social media and all that because that truly has I think proven to be incredibly negative on the
Oh,
whole.
I think it's been a disaster.
Yeah,
In
complete.
in the US, it's like mental health disaster.
Yeah,
I think the combination of COVID and social media was just this intersection of two events that, has just I think really, really left a lot of damage in its wake.
totally, totally. And so this to me feels like a much more positive right now. I mean, it could change, but much more positive thing. It is kind of funny looking back because I was at university when Facebook first came out. That was when I was actually at university. God, it was different then. It was so different. It was so new. But I do tell Ashley a lot. God, I'm glad that we didn't go through university 10 years later or something like that. It would have been terrible, absolutely terrible. Even school, like even people under 18 using like social media how it was like it's just disaster written all over it. My kids are not going to go on social media. There's no way.
Yeah.
No way. I'm even thinking of banning my eldest son from YouTube because the amount of I call it brain rot. The amount of brain rot that he gets like sent on the algorithm when he's watching shows is that is a disaster waiting to happen. I can just see it. I can just see it. You've got these YouTubers who have all these fun channels doing fun things, but they edit it in a way that it's like addictive. Like, they're cutting,
Mm,
got these bright lights and like they're just like cutting every 2 seconds. It's like it's rotting my son's brain. I truly feel like it is. It's nothing, it's no better than him scrolling through social media feed. So I'm about to ban that because he started doing that lately. Even like he'll watch like a Lego YouTube clip or something like that, but the whole clip has been edited to be addictive, basically. Like they've figured out a way to make it like way more addictive by using all these like editing techniques and stuff, just to get more views, obviously more. I mean, it's just all like the incentives of everyone on the platform.
But yeah, it's interesting because there's also like what I've seen is some really positive sides, which is kind of the interest of kids in like engineering and robotics.
Yeah.
That I look at some of the Lego channels and I watch them, because it's like they'll do these things where like they like engineer Legos to climb walls, and they'll
Yeah.
build these higher and higher walls and
Yeah.
or knock down have things that knock down buildings or traverse a water tank and
Yeah.
the level of engineering that they do in some of these videos is incredible. And I think about I have a friend whose son is in middle school and he's doing these Lego robotic competitions and I just think, man, like we didn't have anything like, it was like we had, like brick Legos and six brick Legos, and it was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
now what you can do and the way in which I think, in some of the positive, stuff that's coming through STEM, in those is, I find myself watching them, and
Yeah.
learning.
No, I've watched some of those things as well, and I don't mind watching it. I'd like sometimes zone out and watch them as well. And look, no doubt, like I mean, I've always loved YouTube. YouTube is incredible, absolutely incredible. I've been watching this very very funny guy running in Japan lately. Like just I just came across it. And it's like it's just so creative, so interesting. Um, but for some reason, like if I'm not watching, my older son is the only one who can control the remote.
Mm,
But if I'm not watching, he'll get dragged down these rabbit holes of like AI content with like AI voices, AI thing, and he just won't know. Like he won't know, and I can see it straight away. But then also he'll go on these other ones which are just people being silly, entertainment. And look, it's okay to watch one or two, but like once you in the algorithm, you keep watching that's all that they show. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
he's watching on my account, so I can see, I know when he's watching because all of the things start coming up on my one. I can see this sort of stuff he's watching. So it's it's just not as I don't know. There's no simple answer other than like I need to keep obviously watching what he's watching, but
yeah.
like banning the brain rot ones. Like he's got to watch like I wanted to watch sport ones or educational ones and like Lego ones are great. He's really into Legos and stuff. So it's just about I don't know, just sort of like managing it. It's kind of like social media. Like, I'm sure there was good things about social media too, but then you just get dragged down into these
Yeah, yeah.
very negative places, right? And the algorithms just keep feeding you this stuff because you're watching it and you just like keep getting fed it. So it's yeah. It's just incentives all over the place that sometimes aren't long-term good outcomes.
It's interesting just seeing, already kind of, in my life and yours, kind of how far it's spreading, AI kind of, it started as kind of a work thing. And, it's now, I find it's kind of the concentric circles are just going broader and broader of different things it's touching in ways that I never would have anticipated.
Oh yeah, I think there's so much innovation to come. So much
Yeah,
innovation. Like the generative part, everything is going to be generative. Everything, everything. Like there's just going to be everything is going to be become this like token driven economy, right?
yeah.
Where it's how many tokens can you get hold of and turn into something. Um, it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. I think yeah, I wrote a post. I had a post go out like recently. It's like I don't even think we're building enough data centers for how generative things are about to become. Like you'll be generating your shows, you'll be generating entertainment, your learning, your bit like business stuff. Like everything is got to like I think to succeed long term, you've got to think what can you make more generative? Like what sort of generative product can you create? That's sort of like this help genie idea that we've got with a voice AI is how can we generate a genie in 10 seconds if someone just like if someone says they want a genie, how can we then take what they say and just turn it into a genie and then they have this like voice AI trained on something specific like with global knowledge and you know how can we do that within 2 minutes, you know? So it's all going to that. It's all going to that sort of the generative economy. I mean, I'm sure that will be a thing. This will be a thing that just gets talked about constantly.
I think you're right, and it's interesting because I've gotten burned a couple of times as I've gone into kind of new things with
Mm.
that. I kind of have assumed that the token burn rate would be about the same as what I'm used to, on an
Yeah.
open router. And I had
Mm.
one the other day where I burned $74 in tokens in a day.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah, I got the bill. I was like, what the
I kind of
hell is
almost feel
this?
like that's humanly impossible with what I'm doing. I cannot do that. I couldn't,
Yeah, I
even
mean,
if I
like
tried.
a big day in open router for me, a huge day is $4.
Yeah.
If I'm on all day and just burning tokens left and right, it'll be
Yeah.
like $4.50. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on this new one, $74 in a day, and it was,
Wow.
they actually, and I don't want to out the business because I don't think it was intentional because they later that month came back and said, we've cut prices like 45%.
Yeah. All right.
And I think they didn't realize even how many tokens people were going to be burning. But I've had that happen a couple of times, like when I've played with video, and video just burns,
Yeah.
incredible.
What's
Music burns tokens. It's like,
Yeah. It's $6 for um a 8-second video on Google. $6 or something. Six
yeah,
dollars. So yeah, I mean that token burning has not even just hasn't even started yet, has it?
yeah,
I mean, I'm so hesitant to even do that because of how expensive it is. I mean, I've got it in Content Lead, our platform. I've got it, but it's just very expensive.
yeah. I've kind of restrained myself on that one, but
I've,
yeah,
I've
I think you're right. I think it's going to move into everything. Yeah, but I just
yeah.
have learned the lesson of when I go into something new that's token based, I need to dip my toe in gently before just kind of, you know, shoveling tokens into the fire.
I sometimes think of this generative BI. I mean, this is already a thing. It'll be a bigger thing. If I just think back to a lot of the work that I did inside of Power BI in a lot of cases and a lot of the management of, I mean, I very rarely worked with data that was over 1 million rows, right? Like very, very rarely
Oh,
personally.
very, yeah, same with me.
Um, and you could like even now with Claude Code, you could analyze that data constantly all day, every day, and it would probably cost you less than $10 a day if you did that all day, every day. I mean, if you just did it like when you needed it, it would probably cost you less than 50 cents. Like this stuff is so damn cheap. And I just think about how um, transformative that is. Like it kind of actually goes back to what we were talking earlier. Like, are people doing this because, man, you can analyze what you could analyze 10 years ago for basically nothing so quickly, like so quickly if you wanted to. I mean, I haven't done huge projects on this, but like you absolutely can. I mean, you've done more than me.
It was really interesting. I've gotten to know a number of the Plotly folks, and they actually do something in terms of building out this parameterized code that sits behind the program. They run something like 200 data sets a day, just their own data to build out these routines and subroutines and
Right.
parameterized code. And I think it's kind of getting to a lot of it is I think is kind of the replication and validation of different functions and things like. But you think about that and it's like they're running pretty sizable data sets, hundreds a day, you know
Yeah.
and it's like
Just on a
it's
loop.
not a big firm. And you think about, that would have been impossible for anything but, the largest corporation to do, not that long ago.
Yeah. They probably, I would be surprised if they were spending more than $100 a day. Even
Oh,
I would be
yeah.
absolutely surprised. Even like just what I'm spending on so I'm new content lead. I'm that's our sort of like a marketing content and digital marketing platform. So I've really upped the AI part of it, like a lot of using a lot more AI to generate ideas just all over the place, right? I cannot use more than $2 a day. I cannot. I cannot. I'm just like I'm testing it all day in some cases, and I'm usually not even getting to a dollar on some days. Um, and the amount of work that it is doing, the amount of recommendations and text posts, and it's incredible. And I always just think back to like, man, how long did this stuff used to take before? Like it's doing stuff that you would spend all day on in like 1 minute. It's crazy. 1 minute and it costs you nothing. It costs you like
Yeah.
cents. Yeah, there's more there's more transformation happening, right? Like there absolutely is. I saw there's been a lot of debate about the semantic model. Well, there was maybe a week or so ago, and I don't know. I don't. They're probably all tuning into our Vibecast, Brian. They're probably all tuning into our Vibecast, and we're getting discussion going. But I've been thinking about that a lot, and I'm like, I think that this term is going to go down as just like some historic data term that just meant nothing. It means nothing in the future. That's kind of like what I'm seeing. I mean, it had its day, and now it's all about agents and sub-agents and all this kind of stuff, like instructions. Instructions is going to be the new thing. I mean, I'm seeing it in the development space, right? Like, I don't need to tell it the semantic model to go and interact with the database. I mean, I am literally just saying, go and do this, go and do this, and it works up the huge plan, and it just like explores and tries to figure it out, and it happens in 30 seconds.
Well, I mean, it's like in some ways I can't deny it's useful if you have it and it's of good quality. It's like it's kind of like the DAX debate, that if you have, a good semantic model to feed into your AI and kind of have it write code from that, there's definitely a benefit to that. But the question I have is how good are the semantic models that most organizations have? I think they're not that good.
The amount
And
of and the other additional thing to that is the amount of money it takes to get to this amazing semantic model is obscene. It's obscene the amount of money you pay people and technologies, software to actually get to this thing, which in the future just doesn't feel like it's really going to actually matter to in terms of the quality and quantity that you'll be able to get out of it, out of these other tools or your
You know,
data.
you know what's really interesting though is there's one thing that I will go down with the ship on, which is, I've always maintained that to do a good data analysis, you have to start with a good analysis plan that says, what are the questions I'm asking? What are the hypotheses I have around those questions? How am I going to test those hypotheses? What data do I need? What data do I have? What's the quality of that data? Is there more data I need to collect? How am I
Mm.
going to interpret the results? How am I going to visualize the results? And what I've found is in some sense, if you go into an analysis now without that clear focused thinking, it's almost like you walk into an amusement park and you don't know where to go first. Like you can
Mhm.
just start kind of vibe and analyzing everything, but it's very unfocused. Whereas if you really think about your analysis and you say, okay, what is it? What questions do I really want to answer? And what are the things I want the model to do, and what are the things I want it to visualize? If you submit something like that into an AI, like that's something like Gemini Pro or Claude, Opus, it'll just take that and just run with it. I mean, that you can by doing that upfront thinking. And the interesting thing is you can actually, with a good interactive AI, you can kind of discuss the formation of that plan
Mm.
interactively with the AI and make it really good in not that much time. But I think take making that effort puts you in such a better place to then go to AI and say, okay, implement this plan.
Yeah.
And I've had just tremendous success, you know, bring those sorts of plans, that was kind of the way I learned to do data analysis. Then when I worked for the government, we actually had a legal requirement that we had to publish our analysis plans, publicly before, actually, taking a case to court or,
Mm,
kind of getting what was called rebuttable presumption in terms of the legal weight behind the analysis. And so
mm,
it was just the way I learned to do data analysis. But, what I found is that it's such a good fit for the AI era of, yeah, and in some respects, you'd think, kind of the vibe analyzing would be stronger, but I've actually found, and maybe it's just the bias of, kind of the background I come from, but I've found that kind of initial planning step to be even more valuable in the AI era than it was before.
yeah. Look, there's no doubt that having a very clear plan, a clear view, a clear idea of what you're doing helps. It helped historically. It also helps will help even more now. Um, but I will also say to that that I don't think I was ever involved in a piece of analysis that I was doing myself or with a customer or that was not iterative in some way.
Oh yeah, yeah,
There is absolutely, and I would even suggest it's the same for development or software development historically. Like you're never gonna have everything sorted out, like from the very, like at the start, right? Things evolve, your thinking evolves, your ideas get generated from one step to the next. So I think they're both true. I think they're both true, right? Like if you're just like purely vibe coding a tool right now, like good luck. You can
right.
vibe code a really nice prototype and stuff, but you know, like it's just going to be some little prototype at the end of the day. If you come up with a better plan, yeah, it's going to be a much more better vibe coded project. But I've just been iterating with the AI for months now on these tools that I like have created, right? I really have just been. I've moved from an initial like vibe coding, like knowing what I was doing, to this like full on agentic coding where I'm just like iterating. I'm like getting to one point and I'm figuring out, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. So in summary, both are important in my view.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And, that totally matches my experience here. Just this week, I had an analysis I was doing for a client that I'd put a ton of time into the plan.
Yeah.
And when I started analyzing the data, I was like, ooh, there's skewness that I hadn't anticipated. There are some very influential outliers I hadn't accounted for. And I thought, okay, some of the tests and some of the methods that I had specified in the plan are not going to work now. That they're not, the data are not suited to those particular tests, and you've got to go back and rethink that part of the plan. But it's still good having, I think, those thoughts formed initially as a starting point and say, okay, like these assumptions are not true, and now I need to go back and reevaluate. And yeah, I think that's a positive thing. But definitely the more AI driven analyses I do, the more I think that plan is just foundational.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we've always been on the same page that um, the AI is just augmenting your capabilities.
Yeah,
It's enhancing them. So if you're already really good at analysis, I mean, it's just upping your game. It's upping your game
yeah,
to be even far higher than someone who's trying to vibe analysis. Um, but I did see someone say, uh, I probably went to LinkedIn to read one of your posts, and I saw someone else's post saying vibe analysis won't be a thing. It was very very clickbaity, and I was like, vibe analysis is totally going to be a thing. It has always been a thing. I mean, I used to
right,
vibe analysis in Excel. Okay, so it will be a thing. It just will not. It will be a much higher quality piece of analysis if you actually know what you're doing.
right. Well, and I think, the exploratory data analysis obviously is amazing that you can do. I mean, I think we kind of
Incredible.
the
Yeah.
first version of AI that I probably saw was the like the Python and R packages that would do EDA, and they would
Yeah.
automate all the EDA, and you'd basically feed your data set in, and it was like one command. It was like EDA parentheses data set name, and it
Yeah.
would just crank out like a 20-page report of all these these canned analyses. And yeah, I remember the first time I saw it, it just blew my mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
this would have taken me days to do previously. And seeing that. And so, I think, and now, being able to basically do that by voice and to change it and say, okay, rather than getting these 20 canned analyses out, saying, okay, like take this one and change, these assumptions, or, you know, transpose it and give me a different, give me a log scale.
Yeah.
Um, being able to do that is incredible.
Mm. Yeah. It's taking analysis to another level. I mean, we've always thought that. We've always seen that. It's absolutely there's so much more to analyze. There always has been, there always will be. There's going to be more apps than there ever has been before, which will collect more data than there's ever been before. Like it's all just like exponential growth across all these different things. There's going to be so much more data that you're going to have to use AI just to keep it track of, just to keep on top of it.
Well, it was interesting. I had lunch today with an old colleague of mine, who's another economist, and I was telling he's not been really doing a lot with AI, and he's retired now, and we were talking about. He's asking me about, and we used to do this thing called benefits transfer, which if you didn't have the money for, I mean, uh, an original study where you're collecting your own data, was could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and
Yeah,
so what you would do is you would look for studies that were done of similar questions, and then there were ways of kind of adapting the data from those studies to your analysis, through statistical methods and research methods, and you could get some quite good results, but it was backbreaking work. I mean, you were just reading, technical paper after technical paper. You were, writing to the authors for data sets. You were, I mean, a good benefits transfer could sometimes take a year. And now you can basically just send your deep research out and say, okay, look for these studies on this topic in these peer-reviewed journals,
yeah,
review them, pull the data for me, evaluate the quality of the data in these ways. And it's like while I'm sleeping, I can have it do things that used to take us weeks or months. And you
yeah,
still got to go through and you've got to check it. But even with checking the citations and looking at the data and putting the data up in your in your Supabase structures and turning it around and looking at it, it's still a fraction of the time, And I was telling him this, and he was saying we had projects that literally we would have a whole raft of staff and consultants working on, reviewing this information for months. And now it's like it's just it's one voice command, with a pretty detailed prompt, and you send your AI out and it does it.
yeah.
It's really pretty remarkable.
It's just so disruptive, isn't it? It's so disruptive. I definitely want to come back to that. But it reminds me like so I worked so I worked in a couple of places, right, where like before I went started Enterprise DNA, for 10 years I did banking, investment firm, large FMCG company. I did a lot of work in Excel. I could easily do every single thing that I can remember doing in those times in Excel. I could easily do that with ChatGPT now. I would, and it would be
Yeah.
so much faster, so much easier to get the same information. Um, so that's kind of like that kind of leads me back to what we like talked about earlier. Is like, man, people must be using this. They must be using this in organizations. It's just not obvious. It's just a complete democratization of that. Because I actually think a lot of my like personal value at that time was because I was good at Excel, I was good at VBA,
Yeah.
I was, like that's where a lot of my value was. But now anyone could do this in chat, like that stuff in ChatGPT. It's just so easy. I mean, I was using ChatGPT um earlier in the week to work out pricing strategy for one of my apps. Pricing strategy, and I was just taking into account all the different variables, the model costs. Okay, what if someone used this model versus this model? What if they created constant images all day, every day? Like, and I just was taking into account all these different variables, just vibing away with ChatGPT, trying to work out, okay, what is a good pricing, and then do we need to have like add-on packages and things like this to cover ourselves? Like, I would have spent days in Excel doing that. Days and days
Right.
and days trying to work out that like what if analysis stuff. And I'm doing it within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, like just vibing away in ChatGPT. I mean, this is so transformational. So transformational. It's
But yeah, in some sense, I think you're maybe kind of underselling the value of the domain knowledge you bring to it because I think, yeah,
possibly,
you can
yeah.
do that. You can do that in 15 minutes, but um, somebody who doesn't come with the knowledge and understanding of how pricing, works and
Yeah.
is not able to ask the same, quality questions and to bring in, because one of the things that has surprised me about AI is it has the ability to go to the web, but it won't unless you ask it to. And,
Mm.
so a lot of times what it'll do, it'll come back with a plan of how it's going to do something. And I'll say, wait a second, like, isn't there a better way of, like that API that you're using is way outdated. Isn't there something
Mm.
much faster now? And it'll be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're right. And
Oh,
it'll say, oh, that there was one I did a couple months ago where it was going to take something like 17 hours to run, and
mm.
I got it down to 45 minutes by just pointing in the direction of
Mm.
better transcription, better AI, APIs. And
Yeah.
the thing is, once I knew to ask it, say, wait a second, didn't NVIDIA come out with something called Parakeet that can run like at a fraction the time and cost? And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And
Yeah.
so what I found is oftentimes kind of knowing enough to just even ask the right questions, saying, wait a second, isn't there something better? Um,
Yeah.
it
This is
gets you a
true.
long way. It gets you a long
Yeah.
way.
There's no doubt. I mean, you're yeah, no doubt. I mean, you're better if you know Joe. I mean, I discovered this months ago with the development side of things, and vibe coding was cool. And then I would just get to a point where, man, I needed to know. Like, I was going to be a better
Right.
vibe coder if I actually knew what the hell was going, what I was doing, what each file was being created, how they interacted, all this stuff. Like, I mean, I figured that out very, very quickly. And now when I'm using it, I mean, I don't know everything. I know a lot more than I did though. Um, I mean, I'm catching Claude code errors all the time, and it's so funny. It always comes back this one sentence that goes, "You are absolutely right," and then it and then
Right.
and then it goes on, and I'm like, I've never been that absolutely right this many times in my life. It's very reassuring. It's very reassuring that I'm absolutely right.
It
Um,
it is interesting because I get the question a lot now of saying, okay, like what should I be learning? You know, that with basically AI able to do all these things. What is the thing that that will kind of keep me relevant and keep me kind of ahead of the game? And you the thing I'm always telling people, particularly analysts, is go back and read. The book I always give them is The Art of Statistics, which I think is the best book on data analysis ever written.
yeah.
And the guy who wrote it was like literally knighted. Um, and the book, I mean, the book's probably 20 years old, but it's
Mm,
all about how do you ask the right questions? How do you
yeah.
develop that kind of analytical mindset and curiosity to say, wait, why is this happening? Why did, what could be causing this? And how do I test that? And how do I interpret the data from that? And to me, it's like the more advanced AI becomes, the more critical being able to ask those fundamental questions has become. Yeah, and
Yeah.
being able to put that plan together, or your pricing strategy, kind of understanding the basics of how pricing works and what the elasticity and complementary and complementary goods and such, kind of
Mm.
understanding the building blocks of all that. I feel like that's what keeps you relevant, and that's what really lets you leverage these tools. And so in some respects, it's almost like going back in time to, those foundational things, I feel like is paying off hugely for people.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I agree. Like you can use AI better when you know. Um, but it's also easier than ever to learn those foundational things if you want to in particular
Yeah,
areas. Like
yeah.
I've learned all the foundational development stuff just by like literally prompting AI all day, every day, as I've been like building stuff out and building projects and things like that.